certain you know exactly what we're talking about today. Welcome to Infinity Watch, where we are going to be talking about all the MCU movies that's going to lead up to the Infinity War in 2018, May 2018. So as you know, we started with Iron Man, the very first MCU movie. The second movie that we're going to talk about today is, you guessed it, The Incredible Hulk. Now, as you can see from my background, I am a huge Hulk fan. Incredible Hulk is my favorite MCU, Marvel, comic book, fantasy character of all time. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved the Hulk. I love the concept of the Hulk, even though it came from Jekyll and Hyde. When they decided to go through with making the Hulk, they used that particular dynamic to filter this dynamic between Bruce Banner and the Incredible Hulk. Mild-mannered, weakling type of individual.
Bruce Banner, melted by gamma rays.
Raging Hulk. Two different people, all in the same body, all one. Anyway, this movie is very, very good. Not a lot of people like it compared to the other movies. However, I'm going to try my best to give you a little bit of a breakdown to explain how important this particular movie is for the MCU. So, we begin with Bruce Banner on a chair within a laboratory being experimented on when he's trying to recreate the super soldier serum that created Captain America, Stephen Rogers. But he's using gamma ray. He has a theory that he can unlock the potential of human beings within gamma radiation, small dosage of gamma radiation. This is a little bit different from the 2003 Ang Lee's Hulk, which was a complete reimagining of what happened in the comic books when Bruce Banner went to go save a young individual from being hit with gamma ray radiation, and he ends up being the Hulk. Now, in this particular beginning sequence, I'm not sure if a lot of people can appreciate it, but if you look very carefully, and I can appreciate this very much, we are seeing everything from the perspective of the Hulk. We have never seen that before then or since. If you watch this movie, you will see in the very beginning everything very distorted. You see him seeing Betty, you see him looking at Ross, you see him going crazy, but you see all this through the eyes of the Hulk. And this is how we see, we get to live as the Hulk just for that brief second. Now, we're gonna fast forward a little bit. Now the Hulk wakes up, or Bruce Banner wakes up, where he is no longer in America. He is somewhere in South America, where he is trying to live his life, trying to stay quiet, trying to stay off the radar. What happens is parts of his blood, or a little bit of his blood, gets mixed into some soda that they're making at this factory. The soda then gets to the man, Stan Lee, and that's how the government ends up realizing where he is. They go to that location to try to bring him in, to bring him back to America so that they can extract the Hulk out of him and create a weapon. While on this journey, they enlist the services of Emil Blodski. Anyway, he comes aboard because he's supposed to lead this party into bringing back Bruce Banner. They try to capture him. They're unsuccessful. We go to this factory at night. It's them plus a couple of bullies that bullies Bruce Banner in this factory. And now we are actually going to see our very first look at the Hulk. Now the Hulk Bruce Banner transforms into the Hulk, and we then see him just trying to get away. And as he's trying to get away, Blodski is shooting him. He then looks up and we see the first glimpse of the Hulk. And as we're panning away, we hear the Hulk yell out as if to say, I'm exposed. No. There's also a point in that opening scene where we hear the Hulk talk. He says, And that's all the Hulk wants. The Hulk just wants to be left alone, and nobody wants to leave him alone. Let's skip ahead. We see the Hulk making his way through the jungles, finally transformed back into Bruce Banner. Now, he decides to go to America because he can no longer hide as the Hulk. Because Ross is going to continue to come after him. He's going to continue to get him. So he makes his way to Culver University, where Betty is, to look for ways, first to look for his notes and all of the information that he has about himself, so that he can then try to fix himself with the help of Mr. Blue, which is located in New York. Now, he makes his way to America. Ross ends up finding out that he's on his way to America and tries to cut him off at the university. We're going to skip through some parts in that university. I just want to focus on the part where the Hulk transforms. Now, the Hulk is then forced into a situation where he has no choice but to transform. He ends up transforming. They see the Hulk in all of his glory. Betty sees the Hulk for the first time, and Ross sees the Hulk as well. Not for his first time, but he sees the potential that the Hulk can possibly be for his army. So a little bit of scuffle happens. The army tries different ways of trying to get the Hulk under control, but they can't do it. The gunship sends off explosions to the Hulk, where Betty is involved. Hulk saves Betty. Hulk leaves with Betty. Now I want you to pay attention to this next part. Now the Hulk and Betty ends up going into the mountains, the Smoky, I believe it's called the Smoky Hills Mountains, and this is located in West Virginia. Now I want you to also remember, and we haven't even got to this yet, but I want you to pay attention to how intricate these Marvel movies are. Now we end up going to these caves, and in these caves there's a lot of lightning going on. There's a lot of thunder going on. And whenever you hear lightning and thunder, you can almost connect it to another Marvel superhero, which is actually the god of thunder and lightning, which is Thor. Now, we're going to see a little bit of a connection loosely based on the fact that all of these events are happening within the same time. And we're going to go through this. I'm going to give you a breakdown of this in future videos. Now, Hulk sees this lightning going down, and he starts freaking out. Now, around the same time, you know what? We're not going to go into it because I don't want to ruin or jump ahead. We still got to talk about Thor, which will be the not the next movie, but the second to next. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, let's skip ahead. Betty and Bruce decide to make their way back to New York. Now, as they're making their way back to New York, their information has been sent to the SHIELD database in order for Ross to get a better idea of where they're heading next. They end up getting a hit, and then the government ends up going to New York in order to capture Bruce. And again, during this whole time, Blodski is being injected with the super soldier serum. However, this super soldier serum is not complete like the one that was used for Captain America. This is a little bit of a loose string. There's a lot, it's watered down pretty much. Just imagine having your favorite juice and people adding all types of water and salt with it. It's disgusting. But yeah, that's basically what was going inside Blodski's body. Anyway, we get to New York. He ends up meeting Mr. Blue. Now, the scientist, his name is not Mr. Blue, by the way. But they end up going through the entire thing of inducing Bruce to transform into the Hulk so that they can inject him with a cure. This is not a cure. This is a temporary solution, temporary fix. Bruce then finds out that the scientist has a bunch of his blood all throughout the laboratory. They decide we need to destroy it because the government's going to take it and they're going to try to make it into a weapon. The government captures Bruce, stops all that stuff. And then, well, just to go back a little bit, he transforms into the Hulk. They induce him, he transforms back into Bruce. But everybody captures him. Blodski knocks him out. Blodski's still there. I don't want to, well, yeah, we're not going to do that. The scientist ends up giving Blodski some of Bruce's blood, puts it inside of his body. He then transforms into the Abomination. They even mention the name. With everything inside of you, you're going to be the Abomination. That's pretty much what he said. Anyway, Blodski freaks out, jumps out the window. He's the Abomination now. Now, the scientist hits his head. lands on the ground, and some of Bruce's blood is starting to get into the crack in his head. We'll discuss later. Moving on. So, they end up realizing that Blodski is now wilding out in New York. Bruce is on a plane, on a helicopter, heading to wherever Ross is taking him. Now, the problem is, nothing can really stop the Abomination but the Hulk. So Bruce pretty much convinces Ross to take him back, let him hop out the back of this airplane, hop off the back of the helicopter to see if he can transform into the Hulk. He doesn't transform on the way down until he hits the ground. Anytime Bruce tried to inflict any type of damage or harm to himself, the other guy, or the Hulk, immediately emerges from whichever place he's in within Bruce Banner. That's the one thing about Bruce. Bruce can never truly hurt himself because he would just transform into the Hulk immediately. Anyway, he transforms into the Hulk. Hulk comes from the streets. Abomination sees the Hulk. Hulk and Abomination goes at it in Harlem. The fight wasn't that great, but then again, there was some parts of the fight that I thought was pretty good because of the fact that it called back to a lot of stuff from the comic books, a lot of stuff from the cartoons, like when the Hulk beats up this police car and he uses it as as two fists. Oh man, that was cool because that's something I saw when I was watching cartoons and stuff like that. Anyway, he uses that to beat up Blodski. He's using that to beat up Blodski. Blodski then fights back, and as he's fighting back, he looks and targets Ross in the helicopter, who's having one of his guys shooting bullets at him. It looked like it's a 50 cal. Then again, I don't know. But skipping ahead, they end up fighting on this roof. Hulk was about to rip Abomination's head off. Man, he was going to rip his head off, but Betty stepped in and stopped him. Now, I want to focus on one part of that fight. There's a part of the fight where you see Abomination having the upper hand on the Hulk. And Abomination is clearly bigger and stronger than the Hulk. Hulk looks at Betty, sees that Betty was about to die because when they dropped, there's a leak in one of the engines and then there's sparks. So when you see sparks and gasoline leak, that's explosion, people dead. So Hulk sees that. If you look at Hulk's eyes start to glow green. Then he ends up breaking hold of what Abomination has him in, and that just shows you how the Hulk works. For the more mad he gets, the more strong he gets. When you look at that, oh my goodness. His eyes start to glow green. Therefore, he starts to get angry, and then he starts to have more strength. And at that present moment, he starts to get stronger than Abomination. Abomination can't get stronger than what he is. However, the Hulk, the madder he gets, the stronger he is. So anyway, he pulls free, throws Abomination into the bricks, and then he does his patented Hulk clap. And when he does that, blows away all the fire. Now, at the end of that, skipping ahead a little bit, not that much to skip ahead to, there's another part where the Hulk says another classic, and that just brought a smile to my face to hear that on the big screen. And he does that, and he's about to choke out the Abomination, but like I mentioned before, Betty steps in and stops the Hulk. At the end, Hulk ends up jumping off, leaving Betty. Now, we skip to the very end of the movie, and we see Bruce in British Columbia, which is Canada. Now, if you guys remember, if you know your comics, there's a certain non-MCU character who occupies Canada. British Columbia, Alberta. The government is looking for you when you're in Canada. Who better to get the world's best bounty hunter at the time? I'll leave it there. Now, at the very end of the movie, we then see Tony Stark walk in. And there goes your connective tissue. This is the first time that you see the Marvel Studios showing you the connective tissue. Now we see Iron Man here, and now we see Iron Man again in the Hulk. Now, the connective tissue that I want you guys to look at is the tissue of which he's told at the end of the movie in Iron Man that they're putting together a team. He wasn't told that, but they're saying, I want to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. We can almost make the assumption of what that can be. Now, we see in this movie that he comes to Ross and he says, hey, we're putting together a team. Who's we? And then he stops and smiles. Now, when we get to Iron Man 2, I'm going to connect it all for you, because what happens in that movie is going to properly explain to you how Tony Stark got to where Ross is and how Tony Stark understands what the situation is when it comes to the Hulk. Last thing I want to touch on real quick, Thor and the Hulk. Now, there is a connection here. In the movie, when we saw the thunder and lightning, we can almost assume that that's just bad weather. However, a lot of these events are happening around the same time, and they're all connecting around the same time. Now, when we touch on Thor, I'm going to revert back to what we're talking about here. Now, Thor and Hulk has a very interesting dynamic, and we're going to see a big portion of that in the upcoming Thor movie. But if you look at every movie that Marvel makes, there is a connection between these characters. Now, in this movie, we don't see that much of a connection. However, we do see certain things happening and certain hints that refers back to certain movies. But once again, we're not going to get into that until we touch on the other movies to come. So, once again, that's the end of this particular review. Go and see this movie. Once again, like the other movies, it's almost been out for 10 years. You can look for it. You can find it almost everywhere. It's not the most popular MCU movie. However, there is some portions of the movie that is very important. Also, it is important to mention that this is a different Bruce Banner. This is Edward Norton. And the Bruce Banner that we have now is Mark Ruffalo. We're going to get into all that. Don't worry about it. Anyway, thanks again for hanging with me. Once again, this is Infinity Watch. And I need my hands for this one sec. And when it comes to Infinity Watch, it is my job to prepare you for the big event that's going to happen May 2018, Infinity War. The culmination of 10 years of Marvel cinematic beauty and goodness. I cannot wait. I hope you guys are ready for that. And trust and believe, we are in for a surprise. Now, if you're going to also look at certain things that you may have heard about the Marvel Cinematic Universe when it comes to the villains, right now, we have one villain dead, one villain alive. Obadiah Stane, gone. Abomination, still alive. So, there goes your counter. It's 1-1. Alright? So, once again, thanks for taking time to chill with me and to hang out with me and just allowing me to share with you my experience and my knowledge when it comes to these movies. Once again, this is Infinity Watch, and I love these hands, by the way. These are the best hands ever. Sam's out.
Doc Bruce Banner, melted by gamma rays, turned into the Hulk.
Meet me on Glamour Ray.
Oh man, you can't see it. Oh well. Okay, so you remember what I mentioned later? Yeah, this is later. So, Samuel Stern is the name of the scientist. If you go to the comics, that's also the name of the leader. Now, the leader is one of the Hulk's, I wouldn't say his main villain, but I would say he is giving him the most grief over time, with the exception of Ross. Pretty much, the leader is this mutated, big head-brained individual who just wants to destroy the Hulk. And in this movie, we actually see remnants of a hint that Samuel Stearns will become the leader. Unfortunately, Marvel has not yet jumped on that opportunity. That's not to say that this is not something that can't or won't happen. However, this is something that we should keep an eye on in the future. So, yeah, that was pretty neat to see that they were actually going that direction. Hopefully they do end up going that direction. It all depends. It all depends, to be honest with you. This is Marvel. There's a lot of things involved, especially with the studios. There's two different studios that owns the right. So it will be interesting to see where they go with this. But yeah, that later that I was talking about, yeah, this is now. So I don't think this is spoilers. No, it's not spoilers. It shouldn't be. It's in the movie. So yeah.